What's good, everybody? What's good? It is your boy Malik Washington back with you again with another episode of the BM fucking B. How's everybody doing this fine day or evening, wherever you all reside? I hope that everything is well with you guys and you all are doing whatever you can to make your dreams come true, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're making use of your time, being productive, whatever it is that you like to do or you would like to do. Hope you're putting it into practice and you're applying it. Hope you're learning new things, whatever the hell that may be. I do not know what you guys personally like to delve into or learn about, but whatever it is, I hope that it benefits you in the long run and not necessarily the short term. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to dive right on into the episode, right? And as you all know, it just recently came out, I want to say yesterday or so, that the federal government's mask mandate for public transportation has now officially been grounded, at least for the time being. It's a temporary grounding, clearly because people, when it comes to judicial decisions, they have the right to appeal certain decisions that judges make depending on the case that they are going in, that they are discussing in regards to civil and societal issues, right? But in this case, as you all know, we were once under a COVID-19 mandate. We were locked down. We were required to wear masks. We were required to social distance. And moreover, we were required to, in some companies and some restaurants and facilities, we had to be vaccinated and we had to show vaccination cards, right? Damn near like a petri dish that we've seen back in China, where the Chinese actually did these very things and America followed suit. It seems like we don't have a mind of our own when it comes to diseases. We want to follow behind what someone else does. But nonetheless, we thought it was a great idea. And so the CDC recommended it. And we all fell right into the very same practices that the Chinese did. Although some of these practices of theirs were very draconian and even much worse than the way that we were practicing it. But thankfully, due to the Constitution that some believe is obsolete and not necessary anymore, if it wasn't for the Constitution, many of us would be in deep shit right now. We really would. We would be in complete shit right now due to a lot of people's dictating mindsets, right? What I've come to find out in this pandemic is that I often like to say that catastrophes, calamities, destructive issues that come about in societies and civilizations, it brings out the true colors in people, right? Human beings are conditioned by their realities. They're conditioned by their environmental setting. And a lot of times people are shaped by the very things around them. And that's what creates the individual that we have today, whether if they are good or bad, evil, holy, you name it, right? Everything is shaped by the conditioning of our environment. Mandates seem to have done this very thing to people. Whereas when people used to let live and let live, now we've gotten to a point where this pandemic created a huge divide. When some people decided that they didn't want to wear masks, people who loved wearing masks divided themselves or, separated themselves from their fellow man. Simply because they felt like, well, if you don't want to wear a mask, you don't care about people. You don't care about your neighbor, right? The same way when some people said that they didn't want to take the vaccine, when they've been anti-vaccine practically their entire lives. I have even heard certain people say that certain conversations that were had in regards to vaccines, they felt like it would cause mental retardation. Some people believe it caused, I believe some people believe it caused HIV and things of that nature. And doctors have been, well, you could say, opposing these very views that some anti-vacciners have in regards to the medicine that they put out there. Now, we do not often know what's in the vaccines, and this can cause problems. Doctors very often say, coincidentally, if you do have symptoms, it just so happens that it happened right when you took it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to kill you, but if you have it, it's just a coincidence. Now, I think it would be best if anybody is going to take a vaccine and they have to waive their rights to not pursue any kind of legal filings with you. They should be able to know what's in the medicine that they're taking, because they can't sue you. You've already put yourself out of the wave of fire. And so, with that being said, people should be able to know what's in these vaccines, but pharmaceutical companies don't want to tell you that. Even when we took the COVID, even for people who are vaccinated, and I wasn't vaccinated, and I'm still not vaccinated, and I never will be. But when you get vaccinated, here's the thing. After you get the vaccination, it's already too late. Some people, after taking the vaccinations, didn't even realize that they came out with an article not too long ago where they talked about how that Pfizer, Moderna, JJ, and all of those people who produced the vaccines were actually going to hide the content of side effects or adverse effects that the COVID-19 vaccine had for a totality of 75 years if nothing had been pursued. But someone took initiative to stand up to these pharmaceutical companies and demand that they unveil what was in the COVID-19 vaccines. And it turns out that there were so many things that caused over 9,000 side effects. Some of these side effects actually happened to people who took the COVID-19 vaccine without knowing at the time that these things existed. But yet let the pro-vaccinators tell you, oh, well, it helped save my grandmother. It saved my cousin. It did this. It did that. Let them tell it. Well, the vaccine saved people regardless of those conditions. But here's the thing. We still should have known what was in there. But there was such a divide created as a result of our ignorance of this thing. We just wanted to live. And the government knew that. The government knew humans just want to live their lives. They want to survive. And we're going to give it to them. Because they're in so much fear. They don't care about what's in these contents. As long as it helps them to develop immunity against the virus, which at the end of the day, the greatest defense against any disease or virus is your immune system, not vaccinations. Vaccinations help boost immunity, but they don't necessarily guarantee you life. They don't guarantee you 100% immunity from contracting the virus, right? Or any viruses, because there are many vaccinations. And with that being said, we know that these things don't necessarily work for we're never invulnerable to anything. We're human beings. We're bound to get caught with something at some point. But the bottom line is that these vaccines, these masks, the 6 feet apart, and all of these things have created this mindset that I am morally superior to you because apparently you don't want to get vaccinated. Now, when I look at this and I pay attention to what transpired throughout the pandemic, what I noticed is that people actually began to hate each other because of these things. Because someone didn't want to take the vaccine, because someone did not want to wear a mask, because someone did not want to pretend like that they cared about humanity so much within a span of 2 years that all of a sudden now I am a lover of humanity. I am a messenger of hope. I am the bastion of humanitarianism. All of a sudden, these of the other side of the people were acting as if they were just such great, vigilant, wonderful people that saved lives because they got vaccinated. And they were programmed to think this way because the federal government, the mainstream media, MSNBC, CNN, and all of them were preaching to people, you need to do these things because it is your duty as a citizen of this country to get all of these things, when it should have been a suggestion. And the virus should have been endemic, simply because at some point people have to live with this. It was bound for people to die by it, but everyone is not guaranteed to get it. And even when you do get it, you had a 99.5% survival rate to endure it. Some people were already immunocompromised, and that's why you saw that hundreds of thousands of people were dying as a result of COVID-19, not because they did not have the vaccinations, but because some of these people were already dealing with other issues, and COVID-19, whichever variant they had at the time period of their death, COVID-19 amplified what they already had, so it killed them. And even some of these people didn't even die as a result of COVID-19. They died from the very thing that they already contracted prior to even receiving a COVID-19, prior to even ever coming in contact with COVID-19. But let everyone else tell it, oh, my relative died as a result of COVID. This person died as a result of COVID. That person died as a result of COVID. Everything was COVID, because they needed to make this seem like it was that serious, in which COVID-19 was serious and people did die as a result of it. But what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, is sometimes they sensationalize to make you feel that this thing is sensationalized. And what I mean by that is they've exaggerated everything. Sometimes it wasn't that serious. You don't see people out in the streets dying like it's the Black Plague. You don't see this. You saw hospitals being overran with people or patients who either had the virus or they had underlying conditions. You saw that. And even some hospitals weren't even so overrun as the mainstream news put it. Even in some places here in Chicago, even within the vicinity of where I live, the hospitals were not overrun. ICUs were not overrun. And yet they weren't letting people in that had other underlying conditions, only people that had COVID-19. But yet, even with that exemption, with that restriction, there weren't even that many people going into the hospitals. People were taking care of themselves. And the reality is that we were conditioned to be in fear of a virus, of many viruses to come, that at the end of the day, we could have lived with. Because the reality is that all we had to do was eat better, have better diets, increase our immunity as it relates to the immune system, because it is a defense mechanism of the body, despite how we all may feel about COVID-19. But here's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. With all of that being said, well, you might be saying, well, Malik, where are you trying to get at with this? Well, with all of that being said, a lot of people, I would like to say, became watchers of how people live their lives. Some people tried to throw parties and during COVID-19, and the CDC tried to push this narrative that, well, if you gathered in hundreds of thousands, clearly you would be considered super spreaders, because this is where the COVID-19 virus would become more viral. And some people were quick to call the police on these people, to put them out, to throw them in jail, you name it, during COVID-19, of which people had the right to be able to, let's say, have parties and gather together. But because the CDC made basic suggestions, your local mayors and governors decided, well, you can't do that under COVID-19. But it's very interesting that some of these very people that told you what you could not do during COVID-19, they were doing. You know, Lori Lightfoot here in Chicago, she went and got herself a haircut. Lori Lightfoot during, I think it was Lollapalooza. She went to Lollapalooza during the COVID-19 restriction that she said she told Americans here they could not go to gatherings. But yet you see the very people who said you need to follow the rules, they were not following their very rules that they were regulating other people to follow. Which is what some Americans came up with the slogan, rules for thee but not for me. Because you got all of these individuals who act like aristocrats. They make all these regulations for the peasants of the city, but then they themselves are not following what they preach. Think about Gavin Newsom in California, and he got caught being in certain restaurants without a mask. Obama in his Martha Vineyard mansion, how he had a gathering during COVID-19, and you had a lot of elitists who went to these mansions, or to this mansion, and they actually celebrated with Obama on his birthday, including some rappers and singers. All of these people were propagating to you through propaganda. You can't do this, you can't do that, but I can do it because I'm a public figure, or because I'm special, or because I'm higher than you, or I make more money than you, so I can do these things. What good is regulations if you're not going to be regulated either? So you have the moral high ground in everything that you do, but yet you made everyone else do the exact opposite. We were supposed to follow the rules. You didn't have to. Law enforcement came after us. They didn't come after you. I wonder why. And yet, this is what happens. Now that the mandates are dying down, notice how some of those very people are now getting antsy. They're getting irritated, angry, simply because a federal judge who was appointed by Trump, which I know a lot of y'all don't like Trump either, but at least Trump gave people their basic rights back to be able to live their lives the way that they want to. I will say that. But a lot of you want to regulate how everyone else does things, but while retaining the lifestyle that you have. Yeah. Just because she said that it goes against constitutional rights, and it also goes against certain violations that were set in place by other institutions from a departmental standpoint, you all from the mainstream media, and even some of you regulars that are Americans yourselves, you all sit up here and get angry because now people don't have to wear masks on planes. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been under this regulation or these mandates for 2 years. 2 years. The CDC is not God. The CDC is not your mama and daddy. The CDC are researchers, groups of people that make sure to check and mitigate risk that happen throughout the United States when it comes to diseases and viruses. It is not their job to hold your hand. You are grown ass men and women. There's no way in hell that you're actually getting upset about these diapers that you're wearing over your faces when you have the option to be able to do that by your own volition. No one's stopping you from wearing a mask. If you want to wear a mask, fine. But then it does not make you an angel. You're not going to the kingdom of heaven because you wore a mask today, because you took a vaccine today. You're not better than the next person. You're literally wearing this because you want to stay safe. And if that's what you want to do, that is fine. But those mandates have made you all nothing but batteries for the system that we're currently in today. It shows that you all love the system that you're under. You love appearing like you're the greatest thing on the face of the planet. You love that your ideas empower you to feel powerful. It has made powerless people become very influential in how they interpret how you should live your life. Germaphobes got the best of this because they can't stand to see some of the things that people do. How they open and close doors, how they touch everything and they don't wipe their surfaces. Oh, they were on this. Make sure you do this. Make sure you don't touch your face. Make sure you put on that mask now. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. You know, the whole culture, the whole cancel culture thing. Everybody is like these Nazis. They're watching every little thing that you do. And if you do it, you're going to be held accountable for it. And that's not even true accountability. It's not true accountability. But let them tell it. It is. And that's what these mandates have done. They have given powerless people power. And that is a very dangerous thing, ladies and gentlemen. Some people want to see the world through their eyes. And they'll do anything they can to lobby to get it. It's what's happening. It's what's happening with Disney, which was once a family network. It's what's happening under the Mandate Act, and some people want to try to control what people do with their bodies. It's what's happened with the United States in general, where because you're not wearing a mask or you're not being vaccinated, now we've created this segregation between medical statuses. Who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated, who's wearing mask, who's not wearing mask. Hell, even now with the whole situation with Putin and Ukraine, now we're trying to create a divide between who's Russian propagandists and who are not, because some people don't recommend that we go to war for a country that we haven't even thought about up until this point. And moreover, and nobody wants to see anyone get slaughtered. But at the same token, ladies and gentlemen, we're humans too. We have lives. United States is not afraid of Russia. The real Americans, they're not afraid of Russia. We can take Russia. There's no doubt in my mind that we can take Russia. Especially with our military power, our economy, our resources. We're like the Romans. We can go toe to toe with Russia. That is no issue. But that is not our fight. Our sons and daughters should not have to sacrifice themselves for these people. That is Europe's battle. That's Europe's battles. That's not our battle. But because Biden's dumbass put us in NATO, guess what? Now it's like we're gonna instigate. So if you touch NATO, now we're gonna have World War III. If Russia tries to initiate nuclear weapons, we're gonna respond in kind. Just say you're gonna use missiles just like they're gonna use missiles, and then we're all gonna get blown to smithereens because of this stupid ass involvement. Now, this is what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. Dictation creates power, illusion of power, and these powerless people are in that delusion that they are in power because they have the mandates to back them up. That's what happens when you restrict human beings, is that you give us another group of human beings the ability to abuse other human beings. That's not humanitarianism. That's not how you get people to change. That's how you get people to start fights and wars and segregation and all of those things. You only create the inevitable result of hatred amongst each other when people are restricted from doing what they know and love. Now, we all need a guide sometimes. We all need suggestions. We all need some kind of, you could say, backing. We need a foundation. The CDC is necessary, but the CDC cannot hold your hand. The federal government is even necessary, but they cannot hold your hand. And that's what has happened, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have made people like the Democrats feel that they have to baby you, that they have to take care of you. But you have the ability to do things for yourself, but you're unwilling to do it. And that's why these people get away with what they get away with, because no one acquiesces against that kind of those kinds of restrictions. Some are, but most are not. And that's why we get in the predicament that we're in, and people don't learn until it's the last minute, or what we would often call being reactive and not proactive. So we have to now learn how to deprogram ourselves from trying to act like we're better than someone because we wear masks and vaccines and all these different things. If that's what you want to do it. But don't try to coerce someone else into doing what you are willing to do. You guys act like this is competition. You guys act like you're going to get a great reward for doing these things. If that's what you want to do, fine. We're all running off of the adrenaline of fear because we don't want to die. We all are doing that. It's a gamble to not wear masks or not get vaccinated. It's just as much of a gamble. But hell, if that's what works, why complain? The state of Florida did just fine, and they didn't have all those lockdowns. Some states had lockdowns, and they had people dying even further than the people of Florida. So what's the problem? But I'll leave it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malik Washington. I hope you enjoyed this episode, because that concludes this episode. I'm going to have another video coming out in a little while, so stay tuned for that. Have a good day or good night wherever you reside. I hope that you were enlightened from some of the things that I have said. If you weren't, that is fine. If you were, that's great as well. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content that I bring out.